Okay. Well, welcome everybody. This is Pastor Wayne. We are here tonight to do a little interview about Southern Baptist and who we are.
Yes.
So this will be really important for those of you that are fairly new to the church, or if you're coming from another denomination to our church. So hope you find this information really helpful. So Steve Loy. Steve, tell us about what you do.
Yes, I'm the Associate Director of Missions for East Central Baptist Network. We are your association. I am your missionary, and Glenn is my boss. And so what I do is work with a lot of the colleges in the area, connecting y'all's church and other churches to the colleges and disaster relief and whatever else Glenn needs me to do and whatever the churches need me to do. So I stay pretty busy going around speaking in churches too and just helping them on the staff members and other things that they need.
And East Central Baptist Network is fairly new.
It is.
So we're incorporating Seminole County, Volusia County, or is there a
There
hard and
is. It's
fast
actually,
line there?
well, no, actually it's Seminole, Volusia, and a little bit of Flagler. So
Okay.
we took, used to be Halifax Association and Seminole, and we merged together. We said we could do more together than we could apart.
Very good. All right. Well, Steve, I hope you're ready. I've got some questions here for you.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to ask them, and you might need to have me clarify, but we'll
That's
go
okay.
as we
Yeah.
go. All right. So first of all, a question that came to my mind. Why are there so many Christian denominations? I mean, the church started out in the New Testament as one church, right?
It sure did, and but you know, as time goes, I really believe it's not a bad thing to have denominations. I think sometimes we look at it that it could be, but a lot of times denominations are groups of people that have like-minded beliefs and thoughts, and they work well together to get the gospel out. And so I see that there can be a positive with different denominations. Now, when one denomination thinks that they're the only denomination, as Baptists, in the past, for some of those older members that you may have that remember, they believe we went all the way back to Jesus, and we don't. I wish I could say we did, but you know, so there are those that have that kind of thing. But overall, I think denominations are good because it brings people together that have like-minded beliefs to share the gospel of Jesus.
That's good. So where did Baptists originate? I mean, I've heard things like Anabaptists and different things thrown about, but never really clear in my head.
Yeah, there's different ones. As I said earlier, some believe we have a trail of blood goes all the way back to Jesus, and for older Baptists, a lot of them do take that. Others believe we came after the Reformation, that we came together. You know, Roger Williams and in that particular area of stream. And also others believe it's Anabaptist, that we've had a sense of Baptist, even though they didn't call them that, all the way through with Anabaptist, and then it came to be as we have Baptist today. Me personally, I take what's called the kindred spirit. I do believe that there's been a thought of certain aspects of believers' baptism and things like this that have kind of come through history that brings us to today. I don't believe we're completely out of the Reformation either. I think that was an effect into Baptist life. And so I tell people Baptists are like mutts. We are connected with a lot of things, but we established our really ourselves in the 1600s, really, when we kind of got established in America. We came through, and we're very, very influential in America. So, and a lot of Baptists lost their lives in America when they had the state church. So, and God kind of worked it through there.
Yeah, we've seen problems with the church becoming the state
Yes.
through history, and you know, different problems along the way. But I would think with a name like Baptist, we're wanting to separate ourselves over something to do with baptism.
Well, that
Is
sure
that
is.
primarily
That
it,
is
or?
primarily. You know, they didn't like that we baptized immersed after. we believe you got to get saved and then you get baptized. And the state churches did not agree with that. We weren't licensed, and we also were very much on freedom of the state and the church and separation of church and state, and they didn't like that either. So, yeah.
Interesting stuff. All right, so unlike some denominations, the Southern Baptist Convention doesn't have an established hierarchy of control over the member churches. Tell us about that.
It's autonomy. Autonomy is really big for Southern Baptist. As we started in 1845 as Southern Baptist Convention in Georgia, we really came out of the Northern Baptist, and when we came down starting the Southern Baptist Convention, we chose not to have a hierarchy. We chose to have autonomy, as the churches are autonomous churches, that we send what we call messengers to our conventions. They are not told how to vote. They're not told, and they don't represent the church. They're not delegates. They are messengers that go, and when they get there, they vote their conscience at what they do. And so that's what makes it unique. What made at the convention, say the Southern Baptist Convention, if there is something that has been passed, the church can choose to accept that or they cannot. It's the autonomy of the local church. We're in fellowship with the Southern Baptist Convention. The church is basically, I try to tell people, Southern Baptist is very much like umbrella. You have the church at the top, and then you have an umbrella that's called Southern Baptist, and then you have the Southern Baptist Convention, you have association, and you have your state convention. And they're all autonomous, but they all work together. It makes no sense. But we've done this since 1845. We've worked together, and I think it's important we have what we call Baptist Faith and Message that we come together under as our confession. It's not our creed; it's our confession that we choose to voluntarily come together to work under, and that's part of that autonomy of our local Southern Baptist churches, and so that makes us a little different than a denomination that would have a hierarchy that would say, like Presbyterian Methodist, they would have somebody. But Southern Baptist Convention can't come in and tell this church what they need to do. There's an autonomy.
They don't assign pastors.
They cannot assign
churches.
Pastors to churches. They can't. That's not how we do that. And how we start churches is churches start churches. And denominations and things, we try to shy away from denominations or associations starting churches. Churches start churches, and that makes us also unique.
So really, the hierarchy at the top is the local church.
Is the local church.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what kind of makes it hard for sometimes the secular world to understand Southern Baptist. They don't understand that, as Southern Baptists, we only meet a few days a year as Southern Baptist Convention, and that is at our convention with our messengers, and messengers make up the Southern Baptist Convention, not churches. And that's a unique thing about the Southern Baptists, and that's what makes it a little bit different.
All right, so let's touch on that a minute. The Southern Baptist Convention really only exists a couple days each year.
That's right.
And what is accomplished at a Southern Baptist Convention? What's the purpose of it?
Well, a lot of the Southern Baptist Convention, we originated to do missions. And for the first 50 years after 1845, a lot of people would refer to us as a mission organization. When we started, we kind of broke away from the Northern Missions Society. Unfortunately, there was slavery going on, and we wanted our slave owners to have that. Unfortunately, that wasn't the only reason we started Southern Baptist Convention, but unfortunately, that was a part of our starting. But we started for missions purposes, and then it grew from that point to our seminaries and other things like that. And so when we meet together, we come together to do business. We come together to do, hey, what's our mission boards doing? How are they doing? Our seminaries and our schools, and sometimes we will do like we did many years ago. It's called Bold Mission Thrust, and we'd kind of get everybody together to share the gospel with the whole world by 2000. That was the old goal back in the day, and so we'll do big things. And so when we come together, it is a time of us operating and allowing the messengers to vote on the budget, to basically tell our groups what they need to be doing, so that the church has a connection in everything we do.
So the entities of the Southern Baptist Convention serve
The churches.
at the direction of the messengers.
Of the messengers which come from the churches. And because that wasn't going on in the Northern Baptist, and that bothered the Southern Baptist, the Baptist in the South, because the Northern Baptist would have a society, but anybody could be a part of that society, and the churches had really no kind of, they had no power on that society. So 3 or 4 businessmen could run that society, and then the South were like, hey, well, the churches need better connections here. This isn't working for us, and so that was another reason why they pulled away from the Northern Baptist, was that they didn't like how that was operating. They wanted to have the churches more engaged, and that's why we have what's called a convention, not a society. That's why we're called Southern Baptist Convention, because we're a convention of messengers that connect to those areas. That basically the churches have the responsibility of all of these agencies, not just individuals.
All right, and let's talk about the next step up from the convention would be the state conventions. And what does their organization look like? What are they involved in primarily?
They really are. They're there to connect with the state. Some things we can't do as an association or individual churches that we can do so much more together. Reaching Florida for Christ. Back in one of our executive directors called it Favor Florida, and he loved Florida, and what he was able to do is empower our churches and our associations to connect as a state. For example, we could do a statewide evangelism trainings and conferences, and so they come alongside and guide with the churches, but also the associations. They also come and they give support in those particular areas, and they have a state board that they call them State Board of Missions, and I'm part of that organization. And we also deal with bigger stuff, like we have One Child organization, disaster relief, and some of these big organizations that are just kind of hard to run just individually by yourself. And as a state, we have a state organization, a gentleman that would be over that, and he'll connect with us. So we're able to reach so many more people. Half of our churches in Florida Baptist Convention right now are other languages. So it's really exciting what's happening in Florida through our Florida Baptist Convention. And Florida Baptist Conventions were before the Southern Baptist Convention, so they and our associations were first. So they came before those areas, and there are just ways that we work together. We can do so much more together than we can apart.
Okay, I know that Florida Baptist Convention operates like Camp Lake Yale Camp.
It does. It sure does.
We provide vacation Bible school training, I believe, clinics.
They do trainings. They also work with during the summer, the youth camps. We do camps there. Also, all of our disaster relief stuff is housed there. They have different things that go on all during the years there. And so,
I know that as senior adult pastor, I've participated in Senior Fest.
Oh my goodness, they have a great time there. That's been there for years, and that's a great time. They used to do fishing back in the day too. So yeah.
And so another big thing the state conventions do is disaster relief. So let's talk about that. What is it? How is it organized? And what is the mission and purpose of that?
Disaster relief was kind of neat. In Texas, many years ago in Texas, a brotherhood, which was the men's organization of Southern Baptist, had some teenagers that they were working with, and they decided to help a home in that area. And it became such a neat opportunity that it became what we have today as our disaster relief. It grew out of that, out of just a local church that was trying to do ministry, and now it's gone to a national level where a Red Cross will go in for a disaster. We go right along with Red Cross. Disaster relief comes right in. National level, we sit at a table with the national leaders as we deal with disasters in America. and we're at the table to be able to sit and talk about how we come in, and most of our look, when I go in different ones as representing our association as Ash Relief, they call us the feed people. I had a lady just Saturday, I was at a thing, and she gave me a big old hug, and she said, "Thanks for feeding me." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She had been in a hurricane, and Disaster Relief had been there. But beyond that, we give the gospel. Every individual home that we go in to do a mud out, or we do something with, we give a Bible, we give the gospel out, and it's also opportunity to connect to our counties and our cities and our state. The state officials, if they see disaster relief, even DeSantis, I mentioned something, he came over to Daytona, and all I had to say was disaster relief, and he knew right, he was like, "Yeah, we appreciate you guys." And so through Southern Baptist and through your giving and all that y'all do here in your local church, it's touching the world for Christ through disaster relief, through hitting these disasters.
Disaster relief is made up of church members volunteering their time.
Yes.
Now, do we have a seat at the table with, say, FEMA and other agencies?
We do. We sit right along with them. When FEMA comes in, and when they're talking to all of us, we're sitting at the table with FEMA and all the rest of them. So they look to us and as that, no matter what the disaster, it could be hurricanes, it could be fires. It doesn't matter what it is.
Does it have to be declared an emergency situation for us to get involved, or do we determine if we're involved?
We can get involved. A lot of times we do when they do ask us to come in, but we can go in anytime we want, any of the areas. There are times that we will go in and help in situations. Again, locally, for example, we had one of our local association churches. I had the county call me and say, "Steve, one of our ladies, she's 90-something years old. She lives in DeLand. A tree fell on her house and on her yard. She doesn't have money to do anything." And Sweetwater, one of our church, Sweetwater, has a group of that cuts trees and does all that. And so that disaster relief team went over to that lady's house, loved on her, and got that tree all situated for her and shared the gospel. And so we are not only during disasters, anytime there's a need, disaster relief shows up.
All right, and then One More Child. Tell us what that is. What are the different functions of One More Child?
Oh, One More Child, it's amazing. Again, it's with our Florida Baptist Convention. It's connected to a unique, we give an offering to that. It was our Florida Baptist Children's Home back in the day, and it started out on Main Street in Jacksonville, and the pastor had a real good heart for children. But it is beyond just the foster system and adopting a child. They also have other areas that they're in, human trafficking. It's amazing to hear the stories of how we're able to help in those human trafficking families that are in need. They step in and help. And so it's not just foster children or adoption. They're in the whole system. They also, for the abortion issue and things like this, they're with the state and trying to see about what's going on in that area. And so they're very active in multiple things. So as y'all give to that, you're not only helping children and families, but you're also helping multiple people in multiple ways.
And I will say, too, to our members, those that are watching, if you're coming to our church and you're giving in the offering, there is a portion of that goes to the state level, the association level, and to missions. We'll talk about that in a minute, but you're already giving, whether you realize it or not. There is a percentage of our budget that goes toward these different items. And we also have members of our church that are involved with disaster relief.
Yes,
They'll come with their hats on a certain Sunday of the month.
Yeah, thank you all so much for that.
All right, so I knew with One More Child, I knew about the adoption, the fostering, and so forth. Was not that much aware about the human trafficking. Is that tending to victims of human trafficking and helping them to
Yes, it is.
Reacclimate?
It's all of that. Anywhere that there's a need there to try to reacclimate them, get them out of a situation that they're in. If they can get there, they'll work with the police and they'll work with the state. And yes, so it is beyond just the one area. And I love to share that with people, because sometimes they'll hear one child, they'll think, oh, adoption and foster, and they'll think that's it. And I'm like, they're really doing a great job for the kingdom of God. So.
I know we have a little office here on campus, and I know there's a lot of diapers and toys
oh my
and
goodness,
other
thank you.
things
Yes.
stored away in there. So it really is a resource in a lot of different ways.
It really is. I was a foster parent for a few years, and we had 3 girls, and we got them forever homes, and it was awesome. But those diapers and those extra things that you bring for the foster parent or the parent that adopted the children, it means so much. You don't think about it, but everything costs so much today, and there's so many things out there, and these children are coming from, when you could have one of these children come into your home if you do fostering, and all they have is a bag, and that's everything they own.
Wow.
And so we're here to help, and so one child comes behind and helps with these areas, and so all that you do goes to help those children have a better life and a better place, that know about Jesus mainly and foremost, that they hear the gospel.
All right, we talked about state conventions.
Yep.
Let's talk about associations. That is a local grouping of Southern Baptist churches working together on a much more local level.
It really is. But one thing real quick about the state, we have our state conventions, and very much like our Southern Baptist Convention meetings that we have, and we have them in Florida, and that's made up of messengers just like the Southern Baptist Convention that come from the churches, and they help to operate. I just wanted to show that both organizations run very similar to each other. The messengers come from the churches, and the messengers make the decision at the Florida Baptist Convention that vote on our budget. So people that are watching your video now may want to be messengers, and they, once they become a member here, they can be a messenger and be a part of some of that.
Now, messengers are determined by church enrollment, or
if they're a member of the church and they're voted, and some also a pastor can do, but most of the time it's voted on by the church. Some of them will raise your hand and say, we'll go, and you'll go there as a messenger from the church, not a delegate. You don't sit with the pastor and he tells you everything you need to vote on and what you need to do. You go there, you listen to everything goes on, and you make your own decision on what you feel God wants you to do from what you've heard, and a lot of it will be about one child. It'll be about Baptist University now, Buff, your college, and you're going to hear about how you're educating guys and ladies for ministry.
I completely forgot about
and I'm a graduate from there.
Baptist Campus Ministries.
And then the campus ministries is what I do, and BCM, and you'll hear about how God is just doing some amazing work on our BCMs through our different campuses. God is doing is just like a revival happening all over in our colleges. I know we don't see that on the news.
Where is BCM located in Florida?
BCM camp, it's a Baptist campus ministry, and that's a Christian clubs that meet on the different campuses. So,
but which campuses?
Oh my goodness! In our area right now, we're working on Embry-Riddle, finishing to get things there. We've been there for a while. We're on Daytona State. Mm-hmm. We're also on Seminole State. We have BCF, which is at Stetson. We're able to it used to be BCM, and we're connecting some partnership back there. UF in Gainesville, we got a BCM there. FSU, Miami, University of Central Florida, University of North Florida, University of South Florida. We're all over. Over 1,000 students came to Christ last year in through the BCM in Florida. Last year.
Does the BCM work to connect these students with local churches?
That's our big thing. We have FCAs and things, and they're great. But one thing the BCM really strives to do is connect students to the local church, and that's what we do locally here. We've had some of our students that went to Daytona State and DeLand, a little church next to there. One of the students went there and came to Christ, and then led his sister to Christ, and we're seeing other ones. We had another church that had 8 college students they baptized, came from the college, and so we're seeing this happening all over our association, just locally, but not only here, but all over the state through, and the BCM is also nationally, and so it's also recognized as a national organization with Southern Baptist on all the campuses in the United States. So.
That's amazing. Let's talk about the cooperative program. Now, being a church member, we'll hear about Lottie Moon, we'll hear about Annie Armstrong, but a lot of times that's maybe the extent of it. So educate us on what is the cooperative program, where did it begin, what was the thrust that brought it into existence?
Well, back in, I would say around 1900 and before that time, missionaries and our agencies would have to go to each church, and they would ask for money, and over time that got to be really just cumbersome on the church. You had someone asking for money almost every week. Can you imagine coming to church and almost every Sunday someone saying, "Hey, I need this, and I need this, and I need this," and it became kind of hard on the people. And so in Southern Baptist, we came up, we were going to do the 75 million campaign. It was a campaign we were going to do, and we were going to try to help with some of this. We were going to help our agencies and with our colleges and some of our universities and just our churches and our state conventions. And so we did that. We didn't get the goal that we wanted, but because of that particular drive in Southern Baptist, birthed the idea of a cooperative program. And so in 1925, we voted to say, you know what, every church is going to put in to a pot, if you want to say, and we're gonna distribute that out to the different entities of the Southern Baptist Convention, and so that would help to fund these areas. So then they won't have to come every week or every few weeks to your church asking for money. It would automatically get paid through what we have, the cooperative program. And it started out really exciting, and it's continued, and it's been a wonderful thing for our mission programs. We can send our missionaries, like our farm missionaries, on the field, and they don't have to worry about coming back and trying to raise money and support. Through this, our seminaries, we're able to help educate our ministers through helping it to be cheaper and more reasonable for them to go to our seminaries, and church planning. We're able to see so many churches and church planners to be able to be funded and taken care of through what we give to the cooperative program. And so it is an amazing thing God has allowed Southern Baptist, and many other denominations are kind of jealous because it just works so well. But the big thing is it brings the local body of believers together, because as your church gives, most churches give somewhere between 10 to 12% to what we call the cooperative program. And what happens is when you give $1 or you give money in your plate, then the church once a month will send a percentage, if it's 10% or 8%, whatever the church chooses, it will send to our state convention, and they will send that portion to our national organization, which is a cooperative program, and then it will be distributed through our executive committee that we have appointed as Southern Baptist at our Southern Baptist Convention. They'll make sure that all the money gets where it needs to get with the different entities.
We have the North American Mission Board. Mm-hmm. We have the International Mission Board. But we also have our seminaries and other entities. So cooperative program money, there is a little, some overhead involved on the day-to-day giving of the percentage from each church. But when you get to Annie Armstrong, Lottie Moon, 100% of that is going
McGuire for our state convention.
Yep. McGuire for the state convention.
Yeah.
To these mission efforts. I know we talked at the beginning about all the different denominations.
Yeah.
But my brother was a missionary with the IMB in Colombia for a number of years, and he said when you're out on the mission field, there's no such thing as denominations.
No, it overlaps.
You've got airplane pilots, you've got Bible language translators, and all of you work together on the field. no matter what label you may wear.
Well, as a church planter in New York, as a church planter, I found that even in America, as I was a church planting for 5 years up there, the closest Southern Baptist from me was about an hour away, and so I learned to live with everyone in that same world too. So yeah.
All right. Well, I guess what else should we know as a member of a Southern Baptist church? Anything we didn't cover so far?
No, I really just think we've got a great heritage, and yes, they may see stuff on media about Southern Baptists, but what we have done and what we are doing for the cause of Christ around the world is so powerful, and as you give, give through the cooperative program and you give to your church, that money is being used wisely to get the gospel out to all the world, and I love that about Southern Baptist, and so I want to encourage you, always be a part of some of these organizations. Y'all have a disaster relief here. I'd encourage your to pray about how you can be a part of disaster relief here in your local church, and all these other areas, even One Child. If you'd like to be involved in that, find out how y'all can be connected in. I know your staff will help with all that. Those would be the things I would really just encourage you. And as an association, we want to thank you. What makes an association unique to this whole mix that I want to kind of close with is that, as I shared with you, the Southern Baptist Convention, we're in fellowship together. The Far Baptist Convention, we're pretty much in fellowship together. But the association's unique because churches join associations. We vote churches in, and we vote churches to be a part of that. And so on that level, not only do we help in fellowship and connecting to the other area, you may be thinking, well, what in the world about our doctrine? How does that all work? Well, as an association, one area, as we joined the association as churches, one area that we ask for is documents. And that's where our Baptist Faith and Message comes in.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over that. Let's talk about that.
An association, in our documents, to be a member of our association, you have to take to the Baptist Faith and Message 2000. And so when a church decides, hey, we're autonomous, but we want to be a part of East Central Baptist Network, then they agree to those tenets that are in that Baptist Faith and Message, and that's what we kind of operate under, and we all kind of go on that particular area. Now, one thing we can do is, if some church is not following that, we can go to them and say, hey, this is something as we voted to come in, that this can, and we can hold them to. And through Southern Baptist life, the association's always been the gatekeeper, if you want to say. It's been the one that makes sure that the doctrine is well in our local churches and stuff. As a Southern Baptist overall, we are looking to do some work with our Baptist Faith and Message, but you can be a Southern Baptist and not take completely to the Baptist Faith and Message. You have something similar, and so that kind of makes it a little unique animal. But as we saw a few years ago, the messengers can do what they want, and if a church is not following the Baptist Faith and Message, there is a group now that will go and say, hey, there's some things we're not seeing, things aren't right, and then it will be brought to the group that comes as messengers. And one of you may be a messenger, and you can choose, hey, listen, this is where we stand. We love you, but this is where we stand in God's word, and you're just not fitting in this area. So, we'd love to have fellowship with you, but right now we can't, because you're not in fellowship in this area. And so that church won't be able to seat a messenger at our convention after that. If the convention decides, hey, we are no longer in fellowship with that church, then that church can no longer send a messenger to have a place on that, unless they get things right and they say, hey, we will come in fellowship. And that's just good way to be, because when you're working on something, if everybody's having a million ideas, you're not going to get anything accomplished.
Right. So you mentioned earlier the Baptist Faith and Message is not a creed. So tell us the difference in there.
Yeah, I see a difference in a creed. A creed is what you have to do, and confession is what you voluntarily choose to do. together, and we cooperate together. And I think there, as Baptists, we've always kind of followed under a confessional kind, again, because of the autonomy. Everybody's autonomous, and the priesthood believer, we go to the Lord and ourselves. So that's always been kind of precious to us as Southern Baptist. And so when someone uses that term creed, now if someone agrees that a creed and a confession are the same thing, and they agree on a definition together, then I think they can be used together. I think it just depends, and I think that's what we're trying to figure out as Southern Baptists right now, trying to figure out. But I do believe that there has, in our traditional history, there has been a difference between the both.
Yeah, so the Baptist faith and message really is our distinctive of who we are and what we believe and why we believe it. I remember a few years back, I was in Alabama at a church, and a nearby, a different denomination, maybe Methodist or something, I can't remember exactly, one of the pastors picked up on our website. It had our beliefs, and it just had basically copied the Baptist faith and message there. And he just wanted to know, where did you get this document? He said, it is amazing. And there is a ton of scholarship behind it. There is, we've made changes to it, but it's more been refining,
it has, and it really, we had, actually the first confession, if you want to say, first kind of doctrines that we actually, as Southern Baptist Convention, adopted was in 1914. And what was going on at that time, there was a ecumenical movement, and as Baptists, we were not keen to, first they said, we can't speak for our churches. So we can't be a part of that, because we can't say we're going to agree to this, because every church is autonomous. They said, if we go with you, then we're going to have to compromise our Bible. And for Baptists, that was not an option. And so it birthed a kind of almost a document of this is who we are in 1914, and the church, and actually Southern Baptist Convention adopted or passed that and voted on that. And then in 1920, there was more of this that was going on, and so they fine-tuned it to more of it looked very similar to the Baptist Faith Message, but it wasn't. It was a document E.Y. Mullins and a few of the other guys had put together, but never was voted on. Very interesting. And then 6 years later, we had in 1925 Baptist, at the same time, the cooperative program. It's unique to both conventions. We came with this great group, and the New Hampshire Confession was a lot of the basis of our Baptist faith and message. So it's got a lot of great history, and it gives what it needs to. But there came time in 1963 when, just as in 25, there was a lot of some liberal areas we were concerned about, the Genesis, and taking that literally as versus people that were saying, hey, we can, miracles, those aren't real, kind of. And so we had to state, and that was a way in 1925 to state that. And then in 1965, we were running through the same thing with some other moderate thinking and things, and we had to clarify it again. And then in 2000, again, we had to clarify it again in the contents of what was happening in our world with the family, with saying, and now we're back this year in 2024, back looking again at our document of this and saying, hey, what do we need to do? Do we need to fine-tune it some more? Do we need to clarify it some more? Baptist Faith and Message. And now we have a group, a credentials committee, and that credentials committee is using that to be able to look at different churches that are fellowshipping with us. And so we need to make sure that document is well for them to have better to say, hey, we're not sure if this church is in fellowship or not. So we're trying to clarify all that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and for those of you watching, you can go to sbc.net, and you'll find the Baptist Faith and Message document there, the current version. And it's wonderful on the web because you have all these little references you can click on.
Oh, it's got tons of them.
It is phenomenal the way it's arranged. And it would do you well to just take it and say, I want to study through this, because it's a sizable document, but Very thorough.
I preached through it with a lot of the churches I served. I would preach through it, every, little bit, and just help people understand, why, what do we believe here as our church, and that is exactly what it is.
And we need to know what we believe because, Paul warned against false teachers, right?
Exactly right.
And so that's what we're trying to avoid is veering off into error and taking the Bible to the best of our understanding and trying to formulate a document that we can all look at and say, yeah,
That's right.
I'm right on with that. So,
Amen. Amen.
Well, we're about out of time,
I've
Steve.
probably
We
talked
could
more than I
probably
needed to.
go more, but it's exciting stuff. I just, we have so many that are coming into our church that may have no church background or church background in a different denomination, and so there's always curious. We have a Pizza with the Pastors. That's our new member first step of our class. So we come and get them started on going through some of our distinctives, but it's important to know this stuff, and it really starts with the Baptist faith and message. And thank you for sharing about the history. And I'm just excited for our folks to see that, hey, you may not have realized it, but you've probably been giving to the cooperative program and helping fund all these amazing ministries without even realizing it or understanding it. And I like the idea of being able to give for a specific purpose, but also like the idea that we can cooperate and just put all this money in one pot, like you say, and it goes to equally support so many different entities and ministries and missions work.
It really does. And I want to thank you as a church and those that are watching for your giving. That helps our association. As you give, you probably give somewhere like 2%. Most of the time it's like a 2 and 8 percentage, and that goes to help us. And I want to thank you for that. And as a former church planter in New York, with the Home Mission Board, then went to North American Mission Board, kind of made that shift. I want to thank you to giving to the cooperative program and our Annie Armstrong offering, because those were big parts of my life, and how we could see people come to Jesus, and a church that is going now for over 25 years in New York because of your church and others that are faithful to give to the cooperative program.
All right. In closing tonight, on this video down in the links, I'm going to put some links to some of the things we've talked about, some of these entities. If you want more information, just go online and get some information, and maybe some things that you want to volunteer to be a part of, particularly on the state level and the association level. We can't all be messengers, but we can all be involved as volunteers and helping in different various ministries. So
yes, and if some of them don't want to be a messenger but just want to go to a convention, you can go as a guest. You don't have to be voted on by your church. You can just come as a guest to our Southern Baptist Convention and just see what goes on. So if it comes to Orlando, if you just want to go and you go, I don't want to be a messenger, but I just want to go, you can go and be a guest, and you would be amazed at how this huge bunch of churches come together and achieve great work for Jesus Christ.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Thanks, Steve, for your time. I know you're a busy guy, but came highly recommended, and I can see why. So I appreciate your knowledge and all that you've put into preparing yourself to talk about this subject.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you all for watching.
All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.